Rest in peace.
What is good, guys? How's it going? Today's video is going to be Light Bowgun 101. This isn't going to be a build video or any of that sort of jazz. It's literally just going to be the fundamentals of using this amazing weapon. So it doesn't matter what light bowgun you're using, let's get straight into it. First thing I'm going to cover is the options that I use. So, gameplay settings. The only things that I've really changed is the health and stamina gauge to dynamic, hit effects to less, player hit effects to 50%, and other player hit effects to 25%. With the only reason being, when you're using a Pierce light bowgun, it does get a bit crazy with all the effects going on, and I'd just rather, well, lower them. For the controls tab, change the button hold setting to short, sheath settings to manual, radial menu settings to type 2, and the D-pad controls to item bar. This is just so when I'm crafting ammo or your coatings or anything like that, or try to use a potion, you click the thumbstick in instead of just leaving it, so you can do one after the other pretty quickly. Manual sheath's on because it's annoying when you try to do something and your character just randomly, well, sheaths your weapon for no apparent reason. And the D-pad controls because I just prefer it, if I'm going to be honest. It's not essential, but it just makes hunts a lot more comfortable for me. The camera controls, I've turned camera shake off, I've changed camera speed, reticle speed and gunner reticle speed to fast, and I've turned the aim assist off. At first with these settings it felt really weird, but once I adjusted to it, they feel so much better to use a light bowgun, like honestly. The first couple of hunts will be ropey, but as soon as you get adjusted to it, honestly it's so much easier to snap on the monster and to where you're wanting to shoot, and life is a dream. Oh, I also put my camera distance into 100 just so you can see quite a bit more of the screen. So now all that nonsense is out of the way, let's talk about the radial menu. If you're not already using it in hunts, please do. It makes things a lot easier, a lot quicker, and you'll just have so much more uptime to be able to DPS the monster. It is unreal. You don't have to take any breaks, try to run off, find a safe spot to craft your coatings, craft your ammo. It's just right there, and literally you can create up to 40 of them, and you can have it for if you're playing melee, if you're playing ranged, whatever you're doing, you can set it to there. You can even set gestures if you really want, or stickers, or well, anything really, even stuff your Palico does and your Palamute. So please just get used to using it. Like for literally forever and a day, I sort of ran craft mega potion and potions, which really now I look back and think why, because I've got the first aid potion, whatever it's called, set on one, and a mega potion set on the other, so I didn't really need any of them. But putting it as like I have done, the medicine powder, please use them instead of antidotes. It takes way less time to use and it gives you a bit of a health regen as well. You can literally set it to whatever you want. If you're using melee, you can have all your pretty much items that you use. You can even throw your demon drugs and armor skins in there. It makes life so much easier, and I highly suggest just whatever items you're running, throw a couple of them in there and you will literally instantly see the distance, see the difference in utility. All the switch skills on the light bowgun are fairly decent, to be fair. The only one I wouldn't recommend unless you're using an elemental build, which even then it's probably questionable, which is the reload. Me personally, I'd literally just stick to the standard reload, and either vault in or fan in maneuver. To be fair, they're both good. They both have the uses, and you can't really go wrong using either. So now that's done and dusted, we've had a chat. Let's discuss the different types of reticles. So there's two that you're going to see while you're either in the training ground or you're pew-pewing a monster, and that's going to be the yellow one, which is either you're too close or you're too far, or it's going to be orange, indicating that you are at the sweet spot. So essentially, if it's yellow, you're either going to be too close or too far, so your damage is either going to be a bit lower or it's going to completely drop off. And the orange one is where you're going to be pretty much doing the most amount of damage ticks if you're using Pierce or if you're using any other ammo. That's where you're going to be hitting the most amount for what you're using. With that being said, deviation will play a massive part in this. So even if you've got an orange reticle and you're doing the most amount of damage, if you've got a lot of deviation, then you might not be hitting the monster. So realistically, what you want to be aiming for is the distance that it flicks from the yellow as being too close to just going to orange, where you're in that perfect spot where you're close enough to the monster to be in that critical range, but not close enough where your shots are literally just doing nothing, and it's like slapping them with a glove. Which, during a hunt when it starts getting very sweaty, is easier said than done. But if you're careful with where you sort of position yourself, then you shouldn't really have any issue indicating where this is. You'll sort of start to get used to the distances that the bowgun that you're using is most effective. And because you're pretty much that close to the monster that you're in critical range, even with bowguns with quite high deviation, probably 85% of the shots are still going to hit it. You might have one that sort of squirrels off and doesn't want anything to do with what you're doing, but to be honest, I think that's always going to happen. At least when you're in this range, you're more often than not still going to be doing a massive chunk of damage to whatever it is that you're shooting at. And pretty much whilst you're in this range where you're not close enough, but you're in that pretty much sweet spot, you're going to see a lot of the moves coming your way, so you're going to have more than enough time to dodge or move out of the way, and you're going to look back at how the amount of times you caught before fighting the monster thinking, how did I not dodge that? You'll be able to see everything that's coming your way, even more so when you're fighting with others, because they're pretty much going to be taking the bulk of the punishment anyway, especially when they're sweating it out with a sword. And to be fair, you're not necessarily going to be having to take that downtime to heal, unless something weird happens or you just get caught off guard, or I don't know, you get hit by one of them stupid fish that swim around the desert and pick on you for no apparent reason. A lot of the other stuff I see when like playing online and playing with other people, it's mainly people like rushing, try to get physically as much damage in as they can in the little windows that they do have. Now, yeah, this might work a lot of the time, but with some monsters, they just are an absolute nuisance, and they'll combo attacks together, and if you can't get away from that first attack, then a lot of the time you're going to get absolutely slapped about, and because of the armour that you're running for a bowgun, a lot of the time you're going to be super squishy anyway, so you're going to be taking a lot of unnecessary damage, and like, what's the point? Just slow down. I am far from any form of speedrunner, and to be honest, I'm happy with that. So I literally just take my time, take the shots that I need to take, get the damage in that I can get. Even if it takes me 20 minutes for a hunt, I'm happy with just A, not carting, B, contributing what I can as a team, and C, honestly, just finishing the hunt, like in one piece. Obviously, over time, you're going to get used to the different monsters that you fight. You're going to get used to that distance that you can be in, and how far you dodge. So I mean, it's going to get to the point where you can pretty much stay on top of the monster, slap the life out of it, not get hit by anything, and it's just going to knock your hunt time down anyway. Technique, guys, is key. There's nothing flashy about the light bowgun whatsoever. It literally is point, pew pew, dodge, point, pew pew. That's all you need to do. If you are struggling, I do highly suggest just slow down. Pick more wisely, let's say, when you're doing DPS. And honestly, it will come with time. Now, if you're using a Pierce build like me, God, I love Pierce. especially fighting a monster like Basil, like I am doing in the back, there's not many squishy spots going. So positioning is going to be your best friend. Try to get your shots to enter its face and then leave its tail is where you're going to be doing your most damage. Yeah, that's not always going to be an option, but when you've toppled the monster, or Hammer Bros out there bonking them on their head, gets the stun, topples them over, try and make sure that you're angled so the majority of your shots is just going straight for its face or its tail, whichever end you're at, and it's leaving pretty much through the opposite side of its body. Because you might look and think, oh well, it's only doing 2s and 3s, but if you're doing 10 2s and 3s, it adds up. It really does. Just like if you try to break a certain body part. A lot of the time you can angle it so you just decimate both of the wings, or you can get one of its wings in its head, or if you can break its tail or its back, then you can pretty much get it all with one shot. Obviously, deviation is a bitch, and you get the odd little squirrely bullet, but a lot of the time it's going to go through both. You're going to be doing damage to both areas, and they're going to break quicker. This is where sort of switch skills like fanning maneuver is going to come in handy, because you'll be able to zoom round to its head or its tail, or get into position a lot quicker and get more damage. Well, I just like being a mini Basil and dropping bombs on, well, whatever it is I'm hunting, and making it pay. Quite a lot of the times in the video you'll see, back up quite a bit, move forward so it's sort of the reticle's flicking over and back, and just take a step back, light it up. When it gets knocked over, well, shoot in the face, aim for it to come out of its tail. Easy. It's just stuff like that. It'll make you do a lot more damage and make the monster regret even roaring at you. Another thing that I will say is watch out for where you're fighting different types of monsters. So if it's like a small confined space or like a narrow walkway, using a light bowgun, you need space. Space is key, and it is for picking your shots wisely. If you've got something like Basil, like I'm fighting at the minute, I'm not sure where it's going to line up, but I end up flashing it and it falls down onto like this tiny little ledge. Unfortunately, I knock it over so I can carry on doing DPS. But that won't always be the case, and you can screw yourself over by fighting something like Basil or Rathalos or Rajang. Rajang's an absolute ass, and fighting it in a small confined space is working to that monster's strong suits. Like I said earlier, taking your time. If you back off into a larger area, you can use your fanning maneuver, your fanning vault, get out of the way and just keep pecking at it. You're not going to be in them situations where you're thinking, shit, there's a wall behind me, the monster's in front of me, I've got nowhere to dodge. It's going to limit that, it's going to limit the amount of damage you're taking, and potentially limit the amount of carts that you actually, achieve in one hunt. And with that being said, always fight to your strengths. Always. Now, granted, sometimes you can't really help but fight something in like a narrow alleyway or a small area. So, it comes hand in hand with taking it easy, slowing your game down, making sure you're picking your shots more wisely. Eventually, it's probably going to get bored of getting shot and move areas anyway. Yeah, it might add 2, 3, 4 minutes onto your hunt, but as I said earlier, I'm happy with just, carving at the end and not being a Ludroth's bitch. And with all that being said, I hope this helped. It's my take on, the do's and don'ts and the things that you should be doing and try to train yourself into do. I thank you all for watching, and I hope you guys have a very, very good day. Peace. It's probably going to be a longer video than I wanted, so I'll let the rest of the video play out. Enjoy.
be needing this.